Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes.
October 1st. We smash it 10 yards tonight. The buck we call Pickles. A south wind pushing us back to the zag.
Got her stand on our backs.
Set it out and see what happens. You on it?
Huh?
Got the air going out of me.
Absolutely drilled him.
And boom, he's that good buck.
Go get my buck, then we're gonna go get homie's buck.
Urban piece as hell.
Got him. Pickles is dead.
Kevin Gates, both kills on hanging hunts.
My first public land buck.
Nice work, dude.
Look at that. Triple brow on the right.
I'm digging that.
Bucked out October 28th. An absolutely incredible season.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, gracing your ear holes. The new intro coming in, Chris. Homie put some work in. Got a new little tickle at the beginning of the show for you guys in the ear hole. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a recap of our season. Some clips. We did release a video version of that on all our socials. If you want to tie the clips to a video to kind of give a little bit more impact. But that was just kind of a breakdown of how our season went, the successes we had, and the moments that were awesome. And it kind of gets us jacked up, motivated for the next year. So with that being said, we talked about, this time of year, if the people are listening to us, we feel like they're hardcore whitetail hunters, and we wanted to bring something to you guys that would benefit us and would also benefit you guys. It's really hard to talk about tactics right now. There's nothing really that's relatable, but what is relatable is going over the bucks that you've been hunting or you hunted last year or you're going to hunt this year and really breaking them down, diving into them and picking them apart and trying to figure out what you can do different, what you did in the past that worked, what you did in the past that didn't work. So we're going to do a big buck breakdown this episode of a buck we call West Side. Homie's really attached to this deer. And he's a badass deer, but he's been kicking our ass for 3 years. So we're really going to dive in deep on this, give you guys a lot of intel on the deer that we got, the encounters that we have. And then at the end, we're going to talk about, do we think this deer is killable, and are we going to pursue this deer? And our answers might be different there. We haven't briefed on this. This is just us basically on a phone call,
Yeah, right.
BSing about this deer, doing a big buck breakdown for us, and hopefully bringing benefit to you guys. But before all that, we're going to get into the people that make this possible. I want to start off with Ride On Optics this week. Their slogan is "See the Difference," and they put out a post this week that I really liked. And with all the political bullshit going on, they basically said that they're not only selling this stuff. This is like this guy's lifestyle. They live and breathe this kind of stuff, just like we live and breathe whitetail hunting. They live and breathe, tactical hunting, optics. That's their world. So they're not going to hold back on sharing trophy picks, sharing gun picks, sharing youth with guns, tactical stuff, high magazine stuff. They practice what they preach, and a lot of companies don't do that. They're kind of lenient on what they post. They don't want to offend people. But I think when you can find a company that's proud of what they do and says, this is us, we're not going to beat around the bush, that's kind of hard to find. And it makes me think of, Nikon. They just stopped making scopes, because they didn't want to offend people that bought their cameras. And Ride On's the complete opposite. They're like, hey, to see the difference is their slogan. They're like, this is us. Like, this is what you're going to get if you follow the brand, and we're not going to beat around the bush, and we're not going to post stuff that to make you feel easy. We're going to post what we want. So if you want to find out more about them, rideonoptics.com. But I really liked that post, and it showed the people they are, and with the lifetime guarantee product, they're just backing that up with saying, hey, this is us, this is what we're doing, and this is how it's going to be. So, you got Exodus?
Yeah, guys, last week, or if you caught that episode, we mentioned Exodus is running a special to the first 100 customers. Those 100 came in and went out just about like we thought they would, pretty quick there, but we got some news that there's some stragglers out there, and we're going to run this code again for you guys here. So using code SHOWTIME, all one word, on their website is going to get you 15% off an Exodus render or a render security bundle. And also, you can get signed up for the Exodus newsletter, and your first time customers are going to be able to get additional savings. And all these cameras are backed by their 5-year no BS warranty, 5-year theft and damage coverage. So you're going to have that thing for a while out there in the woods, just like we are out there sitting, baking, getting all that intel, and hopefully helping you kill a deer that we're trying to kill on this podcast here. If you guys like the Exodus brand and want more of that, you can also tune into their podcast, Trail Cam Radio. Jake also has his own podcast called The Land Podcast that we had him on here talking about as Cody's trying to get his own little nugget here. And then Cameron's starting to branch off and do his own thing here a little bit, and he's got the Deer Gear Podcast, which is a little more educational thing about some different type of gear out there. So plenty to come from Exodus, and we look forward to working with them in the future here.
All right, is that it?
I want to cover one thing with Last Breath is they just put out, well, Grant and Jake from Exodus Trail Cameras, they just put out a podcast about Grant buying his own piece and him having his first hunt out there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And, that's something that Grant learned from listening to Jake's podcast. And, they're good friends and everything. So Jake's really helped him. And if you guys are thinking about that situation or getting into it, you can catch that on the Last Breath Huntcast and get some more information on Jake's podcast. Like I mentioned, that would be the Land Podcast.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to break down Westside. If you've listened to our podcast long, you've heard this name a lot of times, and you'll probably hear it kind of in the future, more than likely. So we figured, we talked about this deer a lot. So this has kind of been a thorn in our side. Deer that's he's just out there, you know what I mean? So we're going to break him down. We're going to do the best. And this will give you guys kind of more connection to us. And when we talk about this deer, you'll be like, okay, yeah, this is Westside. You're going to know this deer after we do this podcast. So I'm going to start off with, I found this deer kind of in a way that we don't really find a lot of deer around here. We normally find them off of hunting during season or a trail camera picture, because there's not a lot of deer that are feeding on ground. Not a lot of big deer that are feeding in bean fields on public in the daylight. You know what I mean? Like, you on private ground, you see it, but not on the public that we hunt. It's kind of vacant of deer, of bucks. You see some does out there,
yeah,
some small bucks,
and
but you're not seeing.
The road is fairly busy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fairly busy road. So I actually found this guy, glassing beans early season, and I don't know why. I think we were looking for Magnum. I was looking for Magnum because that would be on that side. And driving through their glassing, and I wasn't even glassing. I spotted this guy going 50 mile an hour down the road, like headed back home. And I was like, holy shit, I backed up. And the first year frame we had him, he had to be 24 wide and probably 26, 27 inch main beams. And he was barely a 10-pointer. Remember, he's just barely, he barely threw those fours. But that was his best rack we ever seen him have the first year. He was wide, tall, and I was watching that deer pretty heavy, and we were always joking like, man, if our season started September 15th, it'd be lights out. How many times I see him, like 4 or 5 days straight,
Yeah.
and then he gapped for a couple days, and then I seen him again. But I was out there pretty, like, from September 12th probably to the last week before season, I was still spotting him out there. But the thing was, is other people were spotting him too. And I kind of messed up on this deer. I was parking in a spot, and a guy rolled up on me and asked me what I was doing. And then he seen my spotting scope out in the other seat on the tripod and binos out and shit. And something I was like, well, I'm just watching this field. And then he's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh, it looks like there's a giant out there. I'm like, yeah. And then, so after that, I was like parking my truck at the parking lot and then walking down the road and hiding in the bushes pretty much. But that's something I learned from this deer is you can be parked on a road and like most people just drive right past you. And I would always just like put my binos down if someone drove past or something. But if it's someone that you know, they're going to most of the time be like, oh yeah, I know that truck. And they're going to stop and then they're going to know what you're doing. So that's something that not to do, don't be that dumb. Like I was thinking, man, there's no one going to be driving around here late in the evening. Like I'm good. Most people are fishing at that time of year. They're not thinking about deer hunting. So I'm like, I'll be good. And he was out there really, really consistent. And I had really high hopes of killing that deer. I was like, man, if these beans stay green, like that was what we were talking about. Like, man, if these beans stay green, we got a good shot at that deer. And I went in there, ran some cams, got daylight pictures of him in the morning, going in there. And then once season hit, he ghosted, like absolutely ghosted. Do you remember the last picture we had of him that year?
Would maybe be September 12th or something there. It was just barely right after he shed velvet.
Okay.
Because he didn't stay that long.
I had seen him the week before season out of velvet, but he'd becoming less frequent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the date at the bottom there, but I mean, he's pretty well filled out there and just getting ready to shed velvet. And right after that, man, he ghosted us that first year and rolled out.
Yeah, if you watch the YouTube, you actually see a picture of this trail cam picture that we're showing. Homie's got it up on his screen. Really wide, really heavy, good brows.
I forgot he had that base kicker there. I don't know if it's up there yet.
Yeah. Had base kicker, split brow on one side. But I mean, just a really good deer. We were really excited about that deer just because he was so framey. Like his ears are out there and he's way out there. You know what I mean? But we were really excited about this deer, and we were thinking, he's kind of in a really small patch of woods, and we think we could go in there and really get after him. And we did throw a couple hunts on him there in that area. I did, just to see if he was there, and I seen no deer, like 0 deer when I went in there. And I'm hunting pretty much right where this trail cam picture's at, and this is him going back into bed in the morning. But we're in the rut, and go ahead and go into the first encounter of that deer. Do you remember what date that was?
I don't. It had to have been about probably the 6th or the 7th, just for the time frames that we're hunting out there.
Of November.
Yeah. And Cody's up to bat behind the bow. I'm behind the camera. I'm facing southeast. Cody's facing almost straight west. and
Was this the day before we had, or the day after?
it was the day before.
The day before that shit went crazy.
Yeah, so it would have been the 6th because we seen Magnum on the 7th. So the sunrise is like a picture you would see in North American whitetail. Just an absolutely nice, gorgeous blue and orange sunrise, and we're way deep. I mean, we're deep in the stuff, and it's early. And I told Cody, I said, giant buck. And he's probably 50 yards from us coming through the bushes. And he's coming right where we walked in, too. So he's getting ready to hit our ground scent, most likely. And that's when I told Cody, giant buck. And I can't move because we're in a kind of an open tree on the backside there. And Cody stands up, grabs his bow, turns around, but it just happened to be at that time that he either caught our ground scent or there was some does up there moving because there were some does blowing a little earlier up there. And he froze, and then that's when we're trying to get situated in the tree, and he just didn't like the situation that he was in. He wasn't unsure, but he didn't know for sure. And he just hauled ass out of there. And then I was like, man, dude, that was a giant. Cody's trying to spin around with his bow because he's going to come in like 12 yards and be right there on the pinch that we're hunting. And I didn't recognize him off the first get-go because he was much bigger in person than he had been on cam. And when I got to thinking about it, I was like, man, that was West Side. Like, I'm not saying that we know every deer out there, but there just wasn't a deer that wide that we knew of and short-timed like that. So those are the two things that kind of were a dead giveaway to me that it was West Side. And this spot is, as the crow flies, 2 miles from where we had him in Velvet, where he ghosted us halfway through September. And that is the first time that Cody and I really were like, holy shit, like these bucks travel. They're covering some ground. And West Side's the first deer that, of probably 8 or 9 now that we've got 2+ miles covering ground on cam, like 100% the same damn deer. And West Side was the first one to kind of show us that. And
yeah, so from where he summered to where we seen him in the rut was 2 miles, but we had ran cams back there and never got a picture of him.
No.
Until around that time.
Right.
Then we had started getting some pictures of him. So he went somewhere between that last week of September to the rut, and we're thinking he went on the private to the south, and then he was popping in there because the reason we were hunting there is because there was a bunch of does. There's an assload of does that were using that area, and we had kind of figured that the does out, and that's why we had such a good time on that spot. But
so I'm as you can see that, Cody, he did come back over there October 8th that first year we were in there.
Yeah,
he did come back in there.
He made the one trip back to his summer range.
Yep.
And that threw us off there because we threw some hunts on him there. And remember we went in there a couple times.
Yeah, I want to kind of I want to elaborate there on something that we learned on one of those hunts. We had a camera up on the edge on a scrape, and that was the one he was hitting on daylight. We also had a camera back where we suspected he was bedding. We were getting him coming in off the ag from that way. And we went in there and pulled the first cam. Boom, he's on it recently. And then we pushed in to try to go get the second cam. And this is probably, 60 yards in past the tree we're going to be hunting. And we bumped up like 3 or 4 does. So what was on that camera, on the second camera, wasn't going to determine whether we hunted that tree that night or not. We were going to hunt that tree regardless if he was on that second camera or not. and we basically blew the hunt before we even got a hunt. So that's one thing that kind of stuck with me hunting him that year was you don't go get that second cam until until it's dark and you're tearing down. There's no need to push in there because you're just gonna bump deer.
We did, like I said, we threw some sets on him in October, and we didn't see any deer.
No, yeah,
in that area.
Nope, just I sat there November 4th and had 2 does come in. You were in the back, and then there was the next day we met up and we hunted back there, and seen
that
his
was the
ass.
time I seen. That was the time, dude.
You seen like 6 bucks back there, didn't you?
That 9-pointer I seen's crisscross.
Yeah, the one that was with Magnum is crisscross.
Yeah,
and you seen him as a 2
that just
2-year-old.
dawned on me, dude. Yeah, that just dawned on me that I passed him. I didn't even realize that.
You didn't see that when I sent in the snap group? I should have killed this deer when I had the chance, and I sent the clip of him coming out following that doe, and then they take off. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was like, I could only kill this deer when he was 2.
That just dawned on me that's crisscross.
Yeah, and then when he was 3, is the year his main beams crossed, and we named him Crisscross. And then I was just going back watching the bullshit footage, and I was like, holy shit, that's Crisscross. And then we had him up on the oak flat, and I was like, okay, that's a decent buck. And then when his shit crossed in the front, I was like, oh, okay. And then of course, now he's at least 4. I mean, he's 4.
Yeah.
But that's
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You had like 5 or 6 bucks back there. You passed that Friday.
Yeah, and then I had like 9 does that day. That was a kick-ass day. But yeah, that's what when you do these big buck breakdowns, you start putting shit together. Shit like that dawns on you. You're like, oh yeah, okay, that's crisscross. I got like a quick video shot of him. He's in the brush, real shitty. And then he loops around. But yeah, that's him, huh? That's cool as shit. I didn't even realize that. But anyways,
that's another big buck breakdown.
That's a definite different one. But we're back there, and we get back to this encounter we had of him. I think I stood up too fast and grabbed my bow. It was first thing in the morning. It's hard when there's 2 guys in the tree. You say big buck. I'm like, where? Standing up. I think he caught movement of me standing up more than likely. That's a bad mistake on me. He was going to go into our ground scent eventually. The wind was good though.
It was good.
We don't know what he would have did, but if he wouldn't have seen us or wouldn't have hit that ground scent and not bothered him, I mean, it would have been a 10, 12 yard shot right in the pinch, quartering away, boom, right there, dead deer. So,
and you're left-handed.
That was definitely, I've been set up perfectly. Yeah. So it's definitely a bad move on my part about standing up. We were pretty jacked up for that hunt going in. Finally back in there. Finally,
good time
we
of
were
the
kind
year.
of saving that spot, and boom, here we go. And I just got a little anxious, but that was definitely his rut range that year. We ended up getting quite a few pictures of him back there, and he kind of hung out there for about 2 weeks and then kind of rolled on. But yeah, that's him coming.
Yeah, that's
you guys got to watch the YouTube version of him. This is him on the 3rd of November, daylight. And we encountered him on the 6th. So he had come into this in his range back into that rut. And so we'd had picture cameras back there and getting no pictures of him that year.
Yeah, one thing that's cool is we kind of did see his transition from his summer range to him going to his rut range. And we caught that year, I want to say 4 shooter bucks in 3 days in daylight going across this spot. And he happened to be one of them, along with Magnum, another giant 9-pointer, another big 10-pointer, and all over 140 out there. And here he is coming out just in daylight, of course, 316. So he definitely right on top of him there. And I think that year he was probably the most killable.
Yeah, I think he was the most killable. He definitely was more prone to daylight, and he stayed in his rut range the longest I think he ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's probably less people out there too.
Yeah, less people. One thing I did want to mention was this deer not a lot of deer love scrapes out there, but this year that deer loved that scrape. He hit that scrape multiple times. We got a shitload of pictures of him on that scrape. And I felt really confident that we were going to kill him there. I just felt like that was a place we could slip in real easy. But I felt like I think we were overconfident and we wasted some hunts there. Because once we were in there and he was pretty sporadic on that scrape, once season started, we probably should have pulled off and said, hey, this was good, but it ain't good now. The scrape even was starting to get where you could tell it wasn't getting hit as much.
Yeah, it was
weird. We were so dead set on he's in this area. We just got to set it out. And I feel like that was kind of a mistake on our part. We should have either moved those cams to get more intel or moved around to try to find him somewhere else.
Yeah,
because that was kind of like one of our top targets that year.
Yeah, he was like my top two. You know, we had Magnum and then basically him for me. And we were only running like 4 cell cams that year, and I don't even think we had any of them on public. We were all just running red cams out there. So we like when he did that transition back there, we didn't know that because it was red cams, and this is kind of where not scouting during season hurt us, because if we'd have went back there, and it's probably the easiest cam to pull right there, we'd have been like, well, shit, he's back here now. And then we would have known, like, okay, now maybe we don't need to be up there at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's something we could have done different. But as far as the first year hunting, like 2019, that's pretty much it. We were on him. He ghosted us, come back, and then he's really ghosted us, and we encountered him, I want to say November 6th, and he caught us. And then that was pretty much that year for him.
Yeah. That was it. That year was that was the year it closed, so we couldn't hunt out there late. The season closed out there, so we were kind of stuck on not getting the intel because we pulled everything. We knew that he had lived more than likely, but we didn't know what the people on the private had done. But we know no one on the public killed him, and I don't think a lot of the people out there on the public were even targeting that deer. They were probably targeting Magnum and other deer, you know what I mean? Because they were he's not an like a high scoring deer. He's just a really wide framey, just cool ass deer. So we're pretty confident the next year going in to say, hey, this is what we got going on. So the next year, we go right back to what we thought, let's put that scrape in, let's see if he's back in his summer range. And we'll put this scrape in. We put that scrape in and put a cam on it. And the first deer on that cam was him, right?
Yeah. So for some reason I stayed home with the kids a day in July, and I'm like, I'll just go out here. We'll get this cam up, put this scrape in, and we'll see what happens here. And I literally had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old out there with me, being loud as hell in the timber. I make this scrape. We hung the mobile on it at like 10:37, and I want to say by 12:30, he was on cam, and it was like, yeah, man, I'm just coming here to see who the hell was up here. And then he went back to bed, and I was blown away really that we had him in there. And I was like, but good, like, so our game plan here is going to be kind of like last year. Hopefully, you made it back, you survived, you're all good. And this year we're 1 year smarter, you're 1 year smarter, and we're going to, have a better plan to come in here and hunt. And really what we did is I really wanted to kill that deer bad. And we hung 2 extra cameras in there. So we got 4 cameras real tight to each other. and we were trying to monitor everything in there. 2 mobiles.
We were all over.
Yeah,
we were all over.
We were all over him. We were all over COVID and the other kicker, the other 8-pointer with the kicker. And Westside was always by himself, and COVID and the 8 with the kicker, or the split
together.
8, were always together. And this is one thing that we kind of did trial and error with too on Westside is we had heavy trail with the creek crossing. We had the normal trail to bedding coming in off that scrape up at the top, and then we put in a scrape down at the bottom with a red cam in video mode and a mobile cam on top of it. And it's when you get a picture of a deer, you think, okay, I got a good idea of what the hell he's doing out there. But when we have these cameras literally 40 yards apart in a triangle, trying to monitor all of the movement in that little spot, it's amazing how they hit one camera on the trail and 40 yards down on the same damn trail, he don't show up. And you don't get any blanks or anything. Like, you just don't get nothing. And it's red cams. So that's kind of a thing that we messed with is like, okay, how are they here but not there? And how are they there and not here to a point? So that was one thing of like, we, up to that point, we were kind of putting a lot of stock in hunting off of our cams and determining that even on our private pieces and everything, and that's one thing that kind of showed us like, hey, we're not getting the whole picture here because the deer was literally, I can see the creek crossing, and he didn't make it up here. So, and then it also just goes back to them deers do whatever the hell they want too.
Yeah. That year we learned, like I said, quite a bit more about him in the early season. Loves scrapes, likes hitting scrapes, always by himself. Never really an urgent deer. More of just like, yeah, I'm just kind of out here. Never like on a mission, just real chill. Not aggressive to other deer. So we knew probably calling and rattling wasn't going to work on him. Kind of a loner deer and no set pattern at all, even in the summer. Just randomness, bounce in here, hit a scrape. Like you think, oh, if he's hitting a scrape, he'll probably be pretty steady on it. Not really. It's just kind of hit it when he hit it. There was nothing that was like a dead giveaway to us. We did go in there and figure out how we were going to hunt it. We had other bucks in there too, but it was the same thing. When season came in, it was dead. Dead in there.
This year in 2020, he stayed longer. He stayed up until, all the deer stayed longer there. It was like September 29th because I did that final card pull there the weekend before season, And
you went in there and hunted your first hunt of the year, I think.
Yeah. Well, it had been October 1st. I hunted the first 4 days that year. And I went down there and tried to sit right on that scrape or, in the creek coming to that scrape. Yeah. And, oh, man, like we had just kind of went in there and done some extra scouting, and we found potential bedding area, got a camera over there on that hill.
Had bucks in daylight.
Yeah, bucks in daylight right there. Like, I mean, we were really close to being on that deer, and then for some reason, again, the three shooters we had over there all ghosted on the 29th was the last day. All 3 of them are there. And I want to say Westside came back like the 12th one time on the far west cam, and then he ghosted for forever.
The rest of the year.
The rest of the year, yeah.
We hunted his core rut area harder than we've ever hunted that area before. Had the most cams we've ever had, and then that area before. Most mobiles, most red cams, and we never got a picture of that deer, never seen him. We covered more ground, hunted more different areas back there than we ever did, and never seen that deer. We thought he died. That year, we should mention, his left side was way weaker. He had probably dropped 20 inches. His brows were smaller. His mass was smaller. He had some goofy shit going on his left side where his G2 was really weak. He was like an 8-pointer with a kicker at this point. He wasn't as wide. We were thinking like, man, maybe this deer is super old out there and, going downhill.
I will
I mean,
say, I will say this year he does have both good brows back again.
Yeah.
And that's something that he hadn't had the previous years. And because even at this picture, I'm like, I don't know if that's him or not. But as you can see, he's got the brows there, and that weak G2. So I'm almost 100% going to say that that's him there.
That's the year before.
That would be 2018.
18. That's the year before we got him in velvet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is a picture that we didn't know what the hell this deer was.
Yeah.
We just knew, okay, here's a giant. We got one picture of him.
And this
dangled
would be
away.
Yeah, this would be back in the rut range area too.
This would be the rut range area. Yeah. So we were like, okay, there's a giant back here during the rut. Like, this deer's huge. And then we finally put the pieces together. Okay, this is him, a couple years in. Yeah, we never seen that deer in the rut or all season. Again, the season started, cut early. And we had a good feeling that, okay, he's even less impressive this year.
Yeah. Now you're just killing him because he's
dead.
badass.
Yeah. But if he didn't die of old age or something, health reason, I don't believe he got shot. Just because he's even worse than last year. And for the amount of cams, what do we have out there? Like 16 or
yeah, we had a shitload.
We had a shit and did not get one picture of him covering.
Well, because we were hunting heavy
acres.
on Magnum. We're hunting Magnum. We're all over. We're solely on Magnum because West Side's off the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And however much effort you want to put into a 190 out there, that's what we were doing. And red cams, mobile cams. God, yeah, man, we had a shitload out there.
All the rut pinches, the crossings, the bottom. Oh, that's another thing we didn't mention. We had him on cam coming out, going into his rut range with Magnum. Remember in the bottom?
Yeah, I said that when they were making their transition back there. Yeah. Then with the 9-pointer and the 10 that year.
Yeah, we finally seen him going back in there.
But it was a red
The only
cam.
thing that I can think of, is the reason he didn't go back there, and what we had kind of noticed is the does were very thin.
Mm-hmm.
There was very few bucks back there in general. We believe that the private that held most of the does, that has most of the food plots, killed most of the does. That's what I believe anyways. Or they were holding all the does because the new property owners had bought that. They had reestablished those food plots. They were very good. And they were either holding all the does or they went in there and wiped out a lot of does. Because you hear that all the time. You guys need to kill does. You have more buck competition and all that, whatever. And there was a lot of does that were using that bedding area. And then that year there just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So Magnum was West Side was either
back
not
on
coming
the
there because he's like, hey, there's no does. They all got killed. Or I'm hanging on the private where the does are, and I'm not even worried about going up in there because all the does are over here. But he completely kicked our ass that year. And we could, like I said, it just blew me away that we had no encounters, no trail cam videos of him or anything. And then getting into this year, you go out, you're like, okay, let's see if this sucker's alive.
Yeah.
And you hang cams, all ghost mode on me out there.
Yeah.
In the summer range. And he's a no-show. So at this point, we're like, he's dead. Like,
Yeah.
He's been here for 3 years in this summer range. Like, he's dead now. There's just no way that this deer's alive. He would be here. And that just goes to show you, like, people say deer get older, their home range shrinks, and I believe that that's true with this deer. You know, his summer range was the same, and then last year it's the same scenario, same area, and he just doesn't show up at all for the whole entire time he should be there in Velvet. He's somewhere else. So we're automatically thinking he's dead. At least I did. He's absolutely dead. And we decide to, Magnum's dead at this point. We have an idea that Crisscross is back there, the short tine 10, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the bucks that we're thinking. And maybe there's some random giant that might show up, but we know kind of where we need to be for those deer. We got an idea. And we go back in there, and I don't know when we got the first picture of them. Did you look it up this year?
No, I had this shit in here, but since it's a video, it won't let me play the video for this year on here.
But all of a sudden,
it had to be in October.
Like,
it was October sometime.
Yeah. Let's put this scrape out. And dude pops in on the scrape. And I look at that video. I'm like, that's Westside. Like, guaranteed. Same frame. Better than last year.
Yeah.
So he had an off year, and now he's bigger than he was the year before, but he's not as big as the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really, really big in the first picture we got of him, the back set. Then he was pretty solid. Then he was kind of shit, and then he's pretty solid again. So that's the bad thing about these deer is, like, when we got this solid picture of him, you're thinking, okay, that deer's 3 or 4 minimal. So you start adding the years up. Let's just say he was 4. Okay, then he had a pretty solid year at 5. Then he had a shit year at 6. Then he had a pretty solid year at 7, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think of, like, okay, did we have a really hard winter, or what would make him throw that shit year? But I really don't know. He just was smaller that year.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at this deer, it's same deer in the rut, in his rut zone, but he's in his rut zone early as shit this year in October, where he's never been in the rut zone, you know? And I was bucked out pretty early, but I was like, I feel like he's killable. He's killable this year. I mean, he was really close to daylight.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming from the top where we had encountered him the year before. So more than likely he was daylight up there. We didn't throw one set up there that this year. Still got sticks and trees up there.
Yeah.
But we didn't throw any stuff up there. So maybe those does come back. We didn't see very many does in the bottoms, though.
Mm-mm.
You know, I mean, like, we seen those 3 there to the south, but we don't know it was bedding up on top. But there's a reason he was back there in October. And if he would have done that the other 2 years, we would have had him on cam back there.
Mm-hmm.
So he did something completely different this year than he's ever done. And he was consistent in that area, unlike he's never been before. And he's either 6 or 7 at this point.
Right.
Like, so he's there still, not no pattern at all, random as hell, not even like close to the same time. Like, not, okay, oh yeah, he's like this far away because he's an hour, like, just randomness. Coming from this direction, and I think that's what that deer is. He's just nonchalant. He's been kind of like a loner shit buck his whole life, and just random as hell.
Yeah, and we got him on cam on 2 mock scrapes that we put in. One area was kind of scrapey before, but we had put one in like right where we wanted the deer to be. On this other one, like there is nothing there that's been there before as far as deer sign goes, other than just travel corridor. And we popped a scrape in there, and that's the one Cody got him on first. And he sent me the video, and even up in the early October, like there was still a couple. There was a trio of 3 bucks and a group of 4 bucks at one time in the back there hanging out together, and still like Westside showed up by himself. And then
he's a loner the whole time.
Back in the middle, he finally makes his appearance there, and that's where he kind of showed up more often than where he was the first time that Cody got him. And so we're not really like, we want to kill that deer, but we're not really dead set on it as we were in 2020, just because of the randomness. Like, you know, it's the middle of November now, and we still can't get a beat on him. He's only showing up a handful of times. But when he does, man, he works the shit out of that scrape. And then
there's other deer out there that are bigger now that you're like, man, I want to kill you, Westside, but this other deer, Crisscross, has outgrown you by far now, dude.
Yeah.
He's in his prime. Then you got the other giant that got killed. And that's the hard thing, is that if you find a lot of deer, that's what you need to do to kill, but it's hard to pick which one you want to go after. You just have to go like, okay, I either really want to kill this one because he's giant, or I got the best odds to kill this one because he's more active. And I think you went with the more active option, you know?
Yep. And we did throw a sit back there October 15th. I went back there the day after Thanksgiving. Was it that long that in between that? Yeah, because it was. I hunted there twice earlier in the year.
Oh yeah, for the short time 10.
Yep.
Maybe like the 5th and the 7th or something like that. 2 days real close together.
Yeah, you did.
And seen no deer at all. We hunted back there
the 15th of October
and seen a couple does.
Mm-hmm. And
really good access. And
then you bucked out, and then we kind of shifted to the urban piece and hit that hard.
Yeah.
And then I went back out there the day after Thanksgiving, and I went to the middle spot. Him and Crisscross really, they daylighted 3 days that week, and it was Crisscross, Westside, Crisscross, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go in there after Thanksgiving. And sure enough, I go in there and I'm like, okay, I really want to shoot Crisscross, but I'm probably going to end up shooting bullshit Westside. And just because that's kind of how the shit goes. You plan on one thing and the opposite happens. But I actually ended up seeing Crisscross that night. I knew that I seen a buck up on the ridge there, and I tried to call at him, and I knew it was a shooter for sure. And you're trying to self-film and all that shit. And I didn't know at the time that it was Crisscross until I come back home, and hell, I was looking here probably a month later at the film, and he come down to probably 90 yards, and I got a decent shot of him, and he's looking at me straight on, and his main beam's crossing the front. So definitely him, but I thought it was this other 8-pointer, and that was it for Westside, really, as far as this year goes. Still haven't heard of anybody killing him or him showing back up on cam to verify that he made the season. So we're kind of in limbo of what we're going to do. Like, we didn't pursue him much this year unless he just gets on a stupid pattern or we feel like he's really, really killable. Don't see much effort being put into him. And not even probably going to waste a cam on the west side, maybe. We have to wait to see what PT does. Maybe we'll get one up there for him. But, as far as at this moment in time, Westside's still out there kicking for now.
We'll probably throw the WG cam on the WG tree by the road, guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure.
But other than that,
if he hits that fucking cam, I'm like...
Yeah, if Westside was on that cam, you'd be like, okay.
He wasn't.
It's over.
He wasn't 19.
Yeah.
I got the pick right there.
Yeah.
Wild Game been hanging out there a while.
Yeah.
The two questions you got.
Yeah. Over the years, when do you think he was the most killable, or do you think he was killable at all?
I think he was killable. In 18, at the beginning of November, we couldn't hunt out there. Unfortunately, it was closed, and that was 19. My fault. So at 19, you seen him out in the bean field. We're feeling really good. We got a giant located. And then he kind of ghosted us. And then the next year, we got him on cam again. We're feeling really good going into season. And going into season, I felt like he was killable, but my aspirations quickly diminished because he didn't show back up on cam there even the first week of October. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, I'm already kind of moving past West Side. And then when we didn't have shit this year, like, you're just like, okay, it's over. You don't find a deadhead out there. You don't find a shed off of him. Like, it's over, if you don't get him in the first 2 weeks. And but I do think that first year in 19, that first week of November when we couldn't be out there, he was definitely the most killable. A lot of the bucks were really that year, though, right there in that time.
Yeah. I feel like that was a hot week out there. A lot of does that were in that area that were hot, and you just couldn't hunt it. It was unhuntable at that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So we missed out a lot of opportunities on that. I think for this deer, the reason he's not killable in my mind, or I don't want to say not killable, but extremely hard to kill, is because he doesn't follow any rules of what a big buck does. He's kind of a oddball deer, and there's bucks that you can figure out how to kill them. Okay, this buck really likes scrapes. I know where the core scrape area is. Okay, this buck ruts in the same area. I know the pinches that he likes to use. This deer early seasons here, and maybe he hits a food source. I can catch him on the way. I have no idea where this deer feeds. I have no idea where this deer beds. I have no intel to him, because even during the summer, he would bed in random spots. We would get him coming out of bed, and what do we have him? We had like 45 minutes of trail cam video of him.
Yeah,
he's in the same spot for the whole entire time.
Continuous video, basically from 3 a.m. until like 3:37. I wish I could show you, because I could have played just the whole fucking thing while we were doing this podcast. He's just standing there eating a bush. It's early October, and I think he was hardhorn there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he just standing there looking at the camera, eating on this bush, and literally chilling.
Yeah. Another thing about that deer, he didn't mind cameras at all. Like, zero.
No, loved
noticed
cameras.
that they're even there. He did not care at all. And we have other deer that act different. They're kind of head bobbing or timid. This deer
walk right up to it,
stand right in front of it, don't care. He's like cocky the way his demeanor. He's slow. He's aggressive on the scrapes, but not like aggressive to other deer or either with another deer. Never had a broken tine. Always, heavy. Just even the kickers. They had that shit side. I'm like, those little points he's got are gone.
Yeah,
they're fine. Like, so I think he was killable. The most killable he was probably, like you said, the 2019 when we did have the encounter with him. If we could have hunted back there pretty hard during the 3 weeks of November instead of the 5 days that we were able to.
Right.
I also think that this year he was killable if you just randomly got lucky as hell and you're just back there on that ridge. And that's kind of how this deer was the whole time. Like, would it surprise me if you said, "Oh, I killed West Side"? No. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay. You killed West Side." But if I was out in the timber and I seen him, I'd probably be like, oh shit, that's West Side. You know, like it would it's not even a deer that you're going in here and hunting and you're like, I got the potential to see this one. It's just not even on the radar.
Hell no.
Be like, this deer is in the vicinity of 3 miles of this area. And maybe like I'll catch a glimpse. Like that's how I feel this deer is. He's just, so I think he's unkillable unless you just get extremely lucky. There's no tactic that you can throw at this deer to even, you can't even just like, okay, I'm just going to put time and stand in his core area, because he doesn't have a core area.
No.
Like he'll be on cam in the rut and then he'll be gone for a week and a half and then he'll hit the scrape again. And then you're like, okay, so where were you for? And it's not just like we're running one cam back there.
Yeah.
Like if he's anywhere on the ridge for 50 acres, he's on that cam. Like he's on one of the cams, you know. So
well, we hunted out there 14 days and we didn't even see him, you know, like, and plus all the shitload of cams you had out there last year, like, you know, it's just not hanging out there like he was that first year.
We do have the 2 bottom cams if they're not stolen.
I know the Moultrie's there.
Yeah. Oh, they're still there?
Yeah, the Moultrie had 65% battery. I was like, shit, I'll leave it.
Oh, the one across the creek?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, did you pull the card or no?
No, I didn't have anything to check it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it'd be interesting to see what's on there. Just
yeah.
And then the one on the fence line, I mean, it's been there forever. That might give us a little. We never ran cams back there. Yeah. So if it's still there, that would definitely give us a piece of the puzzle. Maybe he's on that more and we can feel like, okay, maybe we're confident to kill that deer. But
I will say in 2020, when he had that shit rack, he had an absolutely giant body. I mean, he was humongous and just had that shit rack.
Yeah. And this year he was big, but he didn't look as big.
Not that big. Hell no.
No.
But maybe it's because his rack was bigger.
Yeah. But I don't think he's worth chasing. If he comes by and he's shit racked, I'm going to shoot him. Like, I'm committed to kill that deer, but he's not one that I'm going to target and go after. I feel like it's important when you do these breakdowns, you got to decide, like, you don't have to decide right now, but when season comes, you got to decide who you're going to chase and what you're going to do. And you have to eliminate some, because you only have so much, so much shit you can throw at these deer. If you waste 3 cams on him, that's 3 less cams, or you waste 3 hunts on him, that's 3 less hunts over here. And I feel like we're in the game on a lot of other deer better than him, even if you don't put size as a picture. Like, I feel like Crisscross is more killable than this deer, and Crisscross is pretty random, but I feel like you to kill him would be more like, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's feasible. But this deer is just not in the books for me to kill. But he has been a deer that taught us a shitload.
Yeah.
Like, taught us, like, we're really good at getting deer on cam. Like, I feel like that's one thing that we are really good. We're really good at figuring out where they're at, going in there, either making a mock scrape or figuring out how they're using the ground and getting them on cam. We can do that. It's just the limited time that we have to hunt is the draw the line on, whether we kill them or not. But that was, like you said, the first deer that we realized that 2 miles to them is nothing, even during the rut. That's like not shit. That's as the crows flies, you know what I mean? So 2 miles going to ag every day ain't shit to these deer. And that's something that when we first started hunting, it wasn't even in our brain that they would do that. And it's like a rough 2 miles too. It isn't like a across the field, you know, hey, it's like it's a rough 2 miles. And they're doing it. This deer doing it all the time. So I learned that helped me out. And it was a good learning for me to say, just because you get attached to this deer and he's really active in September, don't feel like you're going to be able to kill him in October. You got to get your October data. Like, okay, cool. He's there close to season, but what's he going to do during season? And I don't give a shit what you say. That week before season, there's something that happens to them where they know, they start doing funny shit. And it's this deer was instant. Like,
Yeah.
getting close to season, let's start doing weird shit. Let's stop showing up on cam. And it's not like we're going in there and pulling cams and bumping the deer. We're running mobiles, and he's been there forever, and then now he's just gone. And we're not getting other people walking through there. There's no stands in this area. There's nobody hunting this area. He's just leaving to leave. You know, and we thought it was acorns for a long time, but there's no damn acorns on the whole entire property almost. You know, so maybe he's going 2.5 miles to acorns somewhere. We don't know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you can hunt a deer and we don't know where this deer is bedding. We don't know where he's feeding. We've scouted that property nonstop, and it's really hard to find a bed out there and be like, okay, this is this deer's bed because X, Y, and Z. Because they just travel so much. So I'm out on that side.
Yeah, there's few spots where they got everything they need right there. You know, they're gonna have to move quite a bit, and I'll agree with you. West Side's pretty much in the trash. If he does come by, I don't care what he looks like. I don't care if he's got a spike on one side. Like, and we know it's him. Like, I'm gonna smoke him. Just because I want to know, I'm gonna send his teeth in and want to know how old he is. Like, you know, were we right on that? You know, were we within a year of his age? And just learn a little bit more about that and try to get that dialed in. And because as we know, we're not very good at that. No. So I'm out as far as dedicating 2 or 3 cams for him. So
yeah,
it was, which is crazy. Like, it's a complete 180 in the last, year and a half of what it was. It was like hard on, boom, done.
It was an absolute fun chase though, that deer.
Yeah.
Because we just got so much. He's got to be top 5 picture, like how much data we have of it.
Oh yeah, so much data.
He's up there. We got like so much data, so many trail cam pics, so much intel, so many trail cam videos. One encounter. Like, yeah. I feel like we've encountered every deer out there more than one time. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Just hard as hell to kill. But I'm glad we can wrap him up as and I, like I said, the listeners, I guarantee you we'll mention this deer later on because he was impactful on how we hunt out there and how we know these deer work the ground. Maybe not killing this deer the first year was more beneficial than killing them.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have been able to say like, okay, these deer. Sorry, my 2-year-old's in here making hell of noise. But go to bed, buddy. It's late. But killing that deer, we wouldn't have learned that these deer travel all over the place, and there's no sketch. They don't give a shit what they do. They kind of work that ground however they want. And we would have killed them the first year over there on the west side. We'd been like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, the next one's gonna move in.
Yeah, but that's the big buck breakdown of West Side. We're gonna do more of these. We hope you guys enjoy them. It's not only we content, but it's beneficial for us because we kind of get to talk it out. We don't get to talk a lot like this unless we're doing a podcast. So we decided, hey, let's talk about do some big buck breakdown episodes, shit that we need to do anyways for ourselves, but hopefully make it enjoyable for you guys. And hopefully you can learn and kind of maybe do this same thing with either yourself with a buck or with a hunting buddy. And don't even have to be a guy that hunts the deer. Just call someone up and say, hey, I got this deer. I want to run down the shit. Let me know what you think. Do you think I should waste my time on him? Do you think I should hit him a different way? Think I should hunt him at a different time of the year? You break down your data you got, your encounters that you got, and you can see if it's worth your time. Because in your mind, you get so emotionally attached to this deer, it's automatically, you're like, God, I gotta kill him. I gotta kill him. I want this buck, and sometimes that's not the right answer, because if you're in the game to kill like we are, and not just target one deer, it can burn you bad. And especially if it's a deer like this, that I can't say he's unkillable, because I feel like every deer is some killable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And 4 years we haven't scratched the surface on this is the way to do it.
Yeah, just like you're saying there, maybe for you guys listening, to talk to a buddy or something and, ask if it is worth it or not. And I will say one thing is, like, I am glad we didn't waste any hunts for Westside up there. And that, no matter how much I wanted to kill that deer, or no matter how high I put him on the hit list, or, whatever, like, I'm proud of the fact that I was real with our chances of killing that deer and just pulled out, and that's something that you got to do if you want to have a chance at killing a buck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote him off way before you did.
Yeah,
you were ready to give him another go.
I know. I was like, if he's not here in Velvet, Cody's trying to talk. I was like, I just want to see what he looks like here in Velvet. If he's not here, then I'll be done. And I snuck out 2 cams and put 2 cams out there for 2 weeks. And if he wasn't there in 2 weeks, like that sumbitch wasn't gonna be there.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm out, bro. I'm out on him altogether, and moved on to more addictions. But that's how it goes. But we hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to do a few more of these. We're also going to throw a couple legend episodes at you. Got a pretty solid one coming up. Pretty excited to do that one. And just keep trying to do what we can right now during this time of year to make our 2022 season better. And I don't know what other bucks we're going to break down. We got a few, but I know that one of them, Trailer Park, if we do him, he's pretty high on my list. He's probably number 2. I like that deer.
Yeah, I like that deer a lot.
I like that deer. So we're going to that's kind of a newer deer that we got. I don't know if we'll do PT, just because I don't know how much I want to give away of that deer.
Okay.
But we could also, we're kind of in the limbo stages of if we're going to keep the lease or what deer we're going to be able to hunt there. But the broke beam buck going to be
should be
giant. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking, it should be like Booner almost.
Yeah. So, and he was pretty reg.
He was reg.
I feel like he's pretty killable.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a thing we got to talk about. But we're going to end it here, guys. Appreciate you listening to us all the way to the end. We love you guys. Always try to do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.